And then there was one. There's one last one. One more Tuesday where the College Football Playoff Committee unveils their top teams before Selection Sunday. So, what will be the order we see the teams appear tonight? And more importantly, are those the six right teams? Let's talk about it. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, which based off clicking on the video, it seems like you do, smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your top six. Thank you to all of our new subscribers who have joined the channel. But remember to tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, your best of bros, because we're on the race to 1,000. Then 5,000, then 10,000, then 100,000, and we will get to 100,000 at some point. I have no doubt about it. So as always, let's continue to talk college football. And by the way, if you want to give me a follow on social media, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson. It's the exact same as my YouTube channel. So when you hit subscribe on one, make sure you hit follow on the other. Tonight, we will see six teams unveiled. And I can tell you right now, I do believe Ohio State will, unfortunately, whether or not we agree, is a better team than Florida State, a better team than Oregon, a better team than Texas, because of the situation, will be at number 7. So they're out. Does that mean the next six teams are the right teams? Who is the order? What do I think is going to happen? Number 6 for me is going to be Texas. I think Texas, with a statement win, 50-point differential against Texas Tech, and the way that they've handled business this season, is going to get that number 6 spot over Alabama. They have the head-to-head in Tuscaloosa in week 2. And whether or not that team in Tuscaloosa still resides there, they're extinct, I believe so. That head-to-head matters in the playoff committee's eyes. And it's very evident based off of how we've seen every other opponent appear, whether that be Washington versus Oregon, whether that be Texas versus Alabama. Head-to-heads mean something. So Texas, even though they have struggled at times, and they nearly texted a couple times this season, they're coming in at number 6. They win, a little bit of chaos occurs, they're going to the CFP. No doubt about it in my mind, and they've earned the right to at least fight for a national title. Culture has changed. You've absolutely seen an uptick in production, and the way this team has rallied and not found a way to shoot itself in the foot is a massive victory, in my personal opinion, for the Longhorns. 5, Oregon. Oregon, I know that the schedule is going to not bode well in their favor. And yes, technically they do have 4 top 25 wins, but they are playing like one of the best teams in college football. If you were to go ahead and take out that loss to Washington, would you make an argument that they're the number 1 team in the country? Probably not, but you'd at least say number 2, definitely number 3, without a question, because the offense is sound. The offensive line has been consistent as all hell, blocking for Bo Nix. The defense has turned the corner ever since you got Dan Lanning to come to Eugene. And they're absolutely handling business. They're finding ways to win with consistency. They're not one-dimensional offenses that just rely heavily on the pass or great defensive stops or corralling quarterbacks in the backfield. They're utilizing everything at their disposal. And in my opinion, they've done their job enough throughout the regular season, fighting through a very rigorous Pac-12 conference to go ahead and punch their ticket to the CFP. But you can't put them ahead of Washington, even if they are playing better than Washington. And right now, Washington is the underdog, despite being undefeated, going into Friday's Pac-12 title game. 9-point differential. But I think the Ducks have done their duty. They're coming in at number 5. You can make the case that Texas has a stronger resume, but you can make a case that right now Oregon's playing more consistent than Texas. So that's why they're at number 5. 4 is Florida State for me. Florida State's undefeated. Florida State, whether or not we agree is a top 4 team in college football, is one of 4 undefeated rosters left at the Power 5 level. And they found a way to make up for lost time with Jordan Travis last week against Florida. Tate Rodemaker was far from perfect. He was far from elite, but you found a way to watch this offense carry the load. Look at Trey Benson inside the red zone. Look at Keon Coleman picking up a couple first downs. Jaheim Bell being effective. The offensive line playing up to par. Everyone has stepped up. Everyone in Tallahassee has stepped up in place of Jordan Travis, and they're trying to finish the job for number 13. You get a win over Louisville. You get a win in Charlotte. You have done your duty. And it may not be fair to the other teams that are out there, but it is fair to say when you play in your conference and you don't lose a single game, and you beat LSU, a high-tempo LSU offense, and you beat Clemson, and you beat up on Louisville, that's enough to go ahead and justifiably put you in the college football playoff. Is it right to say that they're a 4 best team? No, not at all. Is it right to say that they've done their job? Absolutely. So they're coming at number 4. Number 3 is Washington. Just move up one part in the ladder. Because in my opinion, Florida State didn't do enough to go ahead and justifiably move them up to number 3. And Washington didn't do enough to drop themselves down to 4. So the only way that you can kind of put this is Washington, a struggle game against Washington State in a rivalry matchup. Okay, we get it. Rivalries occur and you just kind of take logic out of it. But with Michael Penix Jr., with this passing attack, with the run game finding some bit of a momentum, with the defense stepping up at times in games, whether that be against Utah, whether that be against Oregon State, whether that be against Washington State, they've done their duty and they have handled business. They are one of 3 teams that have played against 4 ranked opponents, and 3 of them still remain inside the top 25. Like, that's where we are when it comes to Washington. And it stinks that if Washington loses on Friday, they're going to be out of the CFP. But this is one of those years where, unfortunately, you can't go ahead and just say, oh, no conference championship, it doesn't work out. So they got to win. They got to win because if Oregon will get in. And if they do win, we got to stop talking about Washington negatively. I'm done with it. I haven't all year. I picked them at the start of the season to be in the CFP. I'm sticking to my guns right now and saying that they will find a way to win. But if they do win, no more negativity. We just watched as Michigan marched into their home stadium without their head coach, and we have to give them the respect. We got to give Washington the respect. Speaking of Michigan, they come in at number 2. Now, would I say that they have a more dominant win than Georgia on the schedule right now? Maybe you can make that argument because Georgia played against a couple of teams that were ranked either right outside the top 10 or just at the cusp of the top 10. But I also think that when you look at that Maryland game, even though it was a struggle win, it was a win. It's not going to matter depending on what happens when you play against Iowa. Because if you beat Iowa and Georgia loses, there you go. You're number 1. But if you beat Iowa and you only win by like a field goal and Georgia only wins by, like, say, a field goal against Alabama, you're kind of pulling straws at this point. They're the 2 best teams in college football, in my opinion, and they've shown consistently growth, maturation, and more than anything, consistent play without any relegations. And they've been through adversity. They have. Like, you can't deny the outside noise that has been effectively coming into Ann Arbor has not derailed this offense or defense, at least slightly. But they found a way to succeed. So I put them in at number 2. And number 1 is Georgia. Georgia right now still has 4 ranked wins. Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, Ole Miss. They still have 4 ranked wins. And Kentucky's no longer ranked, but still Missouri's going to be ranked. And they're probably going to be in the top 10. Ole Miss, if they're not in the top 10, will be number 11. And then you have Tennessee, which I don't understand why they're ranked, but they are. They're going to be somewhere in the top 25. So there you go. And was it a struggle game for Carson Beck? Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Was the rushing attack fine? Yeah, it was fine against Georgia Tech. If we're going to hold teams like Alabama and Texas and Oregon and Washington all to that standard of, oh, well, you did your job this way, you got to do the same thing with Georgia. And so if I'm not going to penalize Washington, or I'm not going to penalize Florida State, and I'm not going to penalize Michigan, or I'm not going to penalize Texas, I'm not going to penalize Georgia either. Georgia still, in my opinion, is the one team teams don't want to face going into a conference championship. They're the one team teams don't want to face when going into the playoff. And if you're going up for a national title, this is the repeat waiting to happen. You do not want to face off against a team that knows history could be made. So that's the way I think the College Football Playoff Committee is going to unveil it tonight. 6 Texas, 5 Oregon, 4 Florida State, 3 Washington, 2 Michigan, and 1 Georgia. And at the end of the day, whether or not we agree that the 4 best teams will get in, 4 teams are going to the playoff on Sunday. And I cannot wait to see what chaos occurs going into the weekend. Thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.